سوف نبقى هنا كي يزول الألم سوف نحيا هنا سوف يحلى الندم.
This is Steve Zeltzer with WorkWeek in Pacifica, and we are coming up to 2024 May Day around the world, and the struggle of working people against privatization, against union busting, for decent housing, decent jobs, health and safety, and also the danger of world war and a genocide that's going on in Gaza. And joining us today is Rania Khayyat. She's with the Palestinian Journalists Syndicate. She's the spokesperson for that union. Welcome to our show, Rania.
Hi, Steve. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me with you in this show. And it's my pleasure to be with you, all the listeners and everybody who's with us.
And on May Day 2024, the situation of Palestinian workers, the Palestinian people, and journalists is dire. And we've covered it, and working people in the United States, journalists should hear about what is going on. So what can we say about the state of journalism, journalists in Palestine and Gaza, and the fight of your union to defend them?
Well, as you know, the violations, starting by the killing, ending by or passing by arrests, ending by banning from travel and movement, and so on, are increasing here in Palestine, in the West Bank and in Gaza. And as you know, in Gaza, it's very clear that the only solution to deal with journalists in Gaza is killing. So they are still facing killing, facing losing their families. Of course, they are still displaced. They are facing starvation and many other things, and they have to cover, because I always say that all international journalists are not allowed to enter Gaza, so are the only one to do the job with very, very hard conditions. So the situation in Gaza, let's say first in Gaza, is very hard. Our recording reached 133 journalists have been killed in Gaza, media workers have been killed in Gaza. I think there are more, but still we did not get in the register. But I think if we go to the updated register, I will find a higher number, because we're still hearing about killing cases. At the same time, in the West Bank, they are not killing them, but we have, as I told you, we have an arrest campaign. Since the 7th of October, 100 journalists have been arrested. 40 of them are still behind bars. 9 of them were women journalists. 4 of them are still behind bar. Most of them have been sentenced as an administrative detention, which is through unfair trials, and which means that they have no clear accusation, but they believe that they could form a security, how to say, offense or something like that against Israel, but without any evidence. Also, our even the sum of the violations since the beginning of this year. Let me check. I have yesterday I updated the table. I can check now. Yeah, we have 267 violations against journalists in the West Bank and in Gaza. As I told you, starting by killing, ending by banning from travel, cut off communication, and many different kinds of and types of violations. So yes, the journalists are still in a very hard situation. We are always alarmed of the worst, because we're going to the worst always. We started with thinking that the killing of big number of journalists is the worst, but now it's not the worst. We are still in continuous campaign of killing, and as I told you, in arrest, and of all types of for prevention and banning journalists from doing or perform their duties.
And the attack on journalists, targeting of journalists, is illegal under international law. And yet, I mean, it seems that the United States, which is supporting Israel, is allowing it. They still haven't even had a full investigation on the assassination of Shireen Abu Akleh, who was a Palestinian American journalist and with Al Jazeera. And more and more journalists in the United States are finding out about her. But yet, despite the fact that this was an act of the Israeli military, the police, there's been no real investigation. The Journalist Union, and not only your union, but the International Federation of Journalists, are calling for accountability and that there be an international campaign. Maybe you can talk about that international campaign to make
Yes.
the government of Israel accountable for its actions.
Well, of course, I need to start that all the international law and all international treaties are very clear about the how to say it's not allowed to target journalists, and they have to be dealt with as civilians and not part of any conflict. They should not be targeted, and they should be protected. So even the Geneva Convention, and also we have the Security Council Convention resolution, I mean, number 2222, which is has been ratified by the Security Council of dealing with journalists as civilians in case of conflicts and not to target them. But this is all violated by Israel, and they are targeting them very deliberately. And it's very clear that they don't care about any international laws or any courts or and so on. At the same time, we at the Palestinian Journalists Syndicate in 2022, we filed a complaint to the International Criminal Court about the systematic targeting of Palestinian journalists by the Israeli army. It included 4 cases of journalists. 2 of them have been killed and 2 have been seriously injured. One of them lost his eye, and the other, both of them lost their eyes. And just after 2 months of filing this complaint, we had Shireen Abu Akleh, which we annexed her death or killing to this complaint to the ICC. But since the year 2022, we received in December a letter from the International Criminal Court confirming the reception of our complaint, and that they want to start the investigation. But till now, no investigation has started, and there is a big silence from the International Criminal Court, which is very suspicious, very alarming. Because we tried also to target them many times, that their silence and not setting the killers of the murderers of journalists accountable, it's increasing the number of killed journalists. Now in Gaza, more than 10% of the journalists in Gaza have been killed. Can you imagine? And with a very limited number, a very limited area, a place of work, 10% are being killed in few months is a catastrophe, I believe.
And the Israeli forces, the IDF in Gaza, do they have embedded journalists? I mean, are the Israeli media involved in covering what's going on in Gaza? What is the actual coverage of the Israeli forces?
Yes, they have a media coverage which enters Gaza with military tanks. I mean, they want to cover the story and the narrative from their point of view, just to show how strong is the Israeli army and IDF. But it's very biased journalism. And as I told you, no other neutral journalists or international journalists are allowed to enter.
And also, I understand that Al Jazeera, they're trying to remove him from Israel, covering coverage in Israel. It seems to be they're concerned of actual coverage of any independent journalist organization of what's going on in Gaza and the West Bank, where pogroms have been going on,
Yes.
attacking people in those communities.
That's true. They are trying to issue some laws to get the approval of some laws by the cabinet or the Knesset for some laws to ban Al Jazeera. They already banned Al Mayadeen from working in Israel. Still, they are not banned from working, but they suffer from a big amount of incitement against them and threats. So yeah, they are not working in a comfortable situation, I mean, in Israel.
And another action of the IDF has been not only to target individuals who they accuse of being terrorists, but also journalists and their families. Is that the case as well in Gaza?
Yes, many, I'm not sure about the percentage, but it's maybe 70% of the killed journalists were killed with their families. So they were targeted with their families, and the more painful was the killing of the family of the journalist. So to let him alone when he loses his children, parents, brothers, sisters. You know how important it is to have your family support to work and to cover and so on. Many of them stopped working because they believed that they form a danger for their families. So they said, no, we want to save our families and not to work on journalism, not to cover, so not to put our families in the target.
But despite that, news is coming out. Your members are
Yes.
continuing to get the
Yes.
stories out despite the
We
threats.
call them our heroes now. Yeah, yes, you're right. We call them our heroes. They're still covering and professionally. I believe they do it in a very hard situation. I'm in daily contact with them. I believe they are my friends, not my colleagues. Many of them, I haven't seen them. I haven't ever seen them, but we are always on the phone and so on. They are very brave and they believe in what they do. And yes, they are they are messengers of this what's going on. Yeah, and they are reporting very professionally and very professionally, I believe.
And what kind of support have you received from journalists around the world? I know at the Washington Correspondents' Dinner, they did mention the situation of Palestinian journalists, and there was a projection on the building, the Hilton Hotel, of the journalists who've been killed in Gaza. And I think there's growing recognition. What unions and support have you received internationally to defend the Palestinian journalists?
Yes, as you already mentioned, there is a growing support by all international unions all over the world. At the beginning of the war, it was a little bit reluctant to support the Palestinian journalists, but now we're witnessing a lot of support by many unions. They support us with solidarity. Many of them participated in the International Federation of Journalists campaign to support Palestinian journalists financially. So they donate to the fund of the IFJ. And yes, one of the partners that we are proud of is the CPJ, who supported, gave urgent support to the Palestinian journalists since November, and we are in continuous update and support. When we finish, they just they don't want to stop. I mean, it's not just a contract, it's like an open contract to keep to support journalists and to be with them and their families, not only the journalists. Also the American Writers Union, they were the National Writers Union, yes, they were very supportive to us. And the Freelancers Association, I'm not sure about the name. You remember of it, Steve?
Yes, the newspaper guild.
Yeah. And they donate. They sent us a good donation. They made a campaign, a fund.
Well, that was the
Fundraising
National
campaign for
Writers
us.
Freelancers Unit. They have a unit,
Yes,
National Writers.
yes,
So
yes,
they
yes,
made that donation. Yeah.
yes.
Well,
They
I
made a
am
campaign for
working to get
us.
my union to contribute. The newspaper guild in the United States is part of the Communication Workers of America, and
Yes,
with over 400,000 members, and our union should be contributing and should be supporting the journalists in Palestine and your families and your struggle. But it is
yes,
a battle, as you know, in the United States in the unions. Because unfortunately, the union leadership of the United States consider themselves Zionist. So that's
yes.
the real problem. Uh,
Um, Also, even we have some nice gestures from some persons, journalists who support, they donate from their own money in person. Some of them, they get prizes and they send the whole prize for any kind of production they do, and they donate the whole amount of the prize to the Palestinian journalists. So this have a very important impact on us financially to support, because they need a lot of support. They need, because they have no, they are under very hard war and under siege, under you know very bad economic situation, no food, no shelters, and so on. So this is very important, and even the idea of solidarity, of that we believe in you and we want to listen to you and we want to know what's going on in Gaza from you, and we support you. We feel, how do you feel and how do you live? This is very important and has a very important impact on the all Palestinian journalists, not only in Gaza, even in the West Bank.
And May Day 2024, it seems that workers around the world are in struggle for survival, for unions, facing AI, loss of their jobs, facing conditions of war, conditions really detrimental for journalists and for workers around the world. So May Day, it seems there is even more need for unity and for solidarity and internationalism this year. And I think that for the Palestinian journalists, the need to reach out with journalists and workers around the world is absolutely critical, I would think.
Yes, you're right. The need of unity is very important. And let's say that all the workers in the world, they need their rights, they need their wages, they need their work rights. But unfortunately, the Palestinian journalists, they need their right of life. Let's start with life, and then we can continue to the other rights. So the very basic is not available even. So yes, we need the whole world to say that as professionals, they need, not because of their profession, they have to be killed. They do a very, very high profession, very important profession, and they are paying a very heavy price for being this for working in this profession.
Okay, well, I want to thank you very much for joining us on May Day. And I
Thank
know
you.
that in the United States, at rallies that are being held in May Day around the country, the issue of Palestinian journalists and Palestinian workers will be coming up as part of the struggle of the American working class. So we need solidarity, sisterhood, brotherhood with our sisters and brothers in Palestine. It's a basic human need. It's a basic workers' need to unify and defend our brothers and sisters in Palestine and around the world. So thanks for joining us on May Day, Rania.
Thank you very much. Thank you for every word. Thank you for every word said, every gesture, every penny paid, to say that I stand with Palestine and I support this case. So thank you very much. Have a happy May Day.
Happy May Day, solidarity in May Day.
Thank you very much. And thank you for everything you do.